You're listening to the Talking Point podcast.
Indeed you are, and welcome back to Talking Point. I'm joined by David and Chris. Say hello, boys.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
We haven't been with you since June. Sorry, I'm turning the mics down a little bit. There we go. Is that better?
That's a lot
That's a lot better, isn't it? We haven't been with you since May, June, and we're going to kick off with a cracking show. Let's get it started. Chris, general election. It's in the US.
What's going on? Yes, the presidential elections. Yes, the US presidential election 2016 is in full swing, even though we still have until next year until we find a new leader of the land of the free and the hope of the brave. And since it's been a while since Talking Point has been going, I think it's better we give you an update on all the goings on. First, let's start with the Democrats. So first presidential campaigner is Hillary Clinton. She served as President Barack Obama's Secretary of State from 2009 to 2013, after losing the 2008 Democratic primary to him. Before that, she represented New York in the US Senate and was Bill Clinton's First Lady at the White House in Arkansas. What else is she known for? Well, number one, being at the wrong end of a sex scandal, and number two, a controversy arose in March when it was revealed publicly as a result of the United States House Select Committee on Benghazi findings that Hillary Rodham Clinton had exclusively used personal email accounts on a non-government, privately maintained server. So that's a good start, isn't it? So let's move on to candidate number two. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders is an avid socialist and one of the most liberal members of the Senate. Mr. Sanders, a native of Brooklyn, was elected as an independent to the state's single House seat in 1990 and to the Senate in 2006. He would be the first Jewish president. So for all those Americans, your options are either a woman or a Jew. Not looking good for the evangelical right-wing nuts, so let's look at the right side of the line. Moving on to the Republican Party, the first candidate is Jeb Bush. He was the governor of Florida from 1999 to 2007, the first Republican governor to win re-election there. The son of President George H. Bush and the brother of former President George W., known for being the smartest in the Bush clan, and yet he still doesn't believe in global warming. Option number two is retired neurosurgeon Ben Carson, who won international acclaim for leading a team event in 1987, separated twins conjoined at the head. More recently, he rose to political fame after criticising the Affordable Care Act at 2013 event as President Barack Obama sat feet away. Since entering the race, Mr. Carson has been buoyed by Republican voters who want an outsider and who cheer his rejection of political correctness. For those on the far right, he may not appeal. There are others, but truth be told, they aren't getting anywhere. So last but not least, it leaves us with the one and only, the man with the orange ferret upon his head. Yes, billionaire tycoon Donald for Trump, Trumpington. Donald J. Trump is a New York real estate and casino developer and reality television star known for his brash and flamboyant personality, making him well suited to politics. Mr. Trump has never held political office, but boasts of his negotiating skills, business acumen, and wealth. His candidacy has defined expectations of the political and media establishment as Republican voters, frustrated with Washington, look toward an outsider for the nomination. He is known for claiming Obama is not American and asking for his birth certificate. Also for offending the whole of Mexico, which I must say beat Top Gear's record. Oh, and yeah, being a professional arsehole. So it's looking good for Uncle Sam in the US of A. Boys, what's our thoughts?
Just to say that I think apocalypse is on the horizon when Corbyn and Trump come to power.
That's a frightful scenario there,
isn't it? Corbyn, the socialist, the socialist Jesus, and then Trump, just
the
generally a moron.
the right-wing nut.
All crack.
It is really scary looking at some of the people that are being elected. I've mentioned only a few. In the Republican Party, there must be about 20 candidates. A couple of them have dropped out. One guy that was running for Democratic Party is a guy called Lincoln Chafee, and they were looking at the percentage of, who's leading in the polls, and obviously Hillary is obviously leading the Democratic polls. Bernie Sanders is quite close behind. One of the guys, Lincoln Chafee, they didn't even give him a percentage. They just put the percentage sign. So pretty much that means 0. So it's not going very well for him.
Poor guy.
Yes, I do feel sorry for Lincoln Chafee because he seems very nice, but doesn't really make
it
good
get you anywhere.
I have a question for you, Chris.
Yeah, go for it, my friend.
The question that's burning on everyone's lips: which party will Kanye represent?
Oh, that's a really good question. Yeah, because Kanye did announce he wanted to run for president. I don't know. Surely the Democrats.
Because he's black.
Yeah. Well. Actually, you say that neurosurgeon Ben Carson is black, and you know what Rupert Murdoch said? Obviously, keen supporter of the Republican Party and Fox News entrepreneur. He said that if we elect Ben Carson, we're electing a true black person.
Okay, and Barack Obama.
And Barack Obama is not, apparently.
Ah, well then.
So there you go,
Fantastic,
everyone.
mate.
Barack Obama is not truly black, according to Rupert Murdoch.
Rupert Murdoch must be like erring on the side of KKK.
He is genuinely terrifying.
There's so much wrong with America. It's just.
Hillary Clinton is the most logical choice here. But at the same time, that's not necessarily a good thing.
Well, Kanye.
She's not exactly sane.
No, she's not really, to be honest. She's done quite a few things wrong, including the Benghazi incident, which is I still think she's quite credible for. The other thing as well is the Bernie Sanders is probably the most credible out of that one. Yes, he is a socialist, and yes, he is Jewish, which probably doesn't appeal to the far right, but he and he'll be the first Jewish guy to be elected. You know, I personally, I think he could do quite a lot, and obviously he wants affordable healthcare and wants free education as well.
Sanders against Trump would be a huge political battle and very, very polarising.
It will be indeed. But I personally, boys, let's make a debate. So who's going to win the Democratic nomination? Who's going to win the Republican nomination? I've given you the main options there.
Hillary, without a shadow of a doubt.
For Democrats,
and then I think Trump for the
Republicans.
Not they'd be good, but I would love to see is Kanye and Boris.
Because Boris can
as
be
the two,
president.
as the two most powerful men in the world. I want him to be Prime Minister and Kanye as President. It'd just be amazing.
David?
I think, like I say, it's probably going to be Hillary Clinton based on the polls at the moment for Democratic leader. As far as the Republicans go, I'm not so sure about Donald Trump. He's not as popular within the Republican Party as he is with the rest of America. So it's quite possible that we could see Ben Carson running for president.
I believe,
or Jeb Bush.
Or Jeb Bush.
I think
Jeb Bush is failing a little bit at the moment. He's not doing very well. He's falling behind.
Yeah,
the polls.
in the polls it is Donald leading the charge. But it's interesting how different some of the candidates are, and how close this election could actually be compared to ones in the past.
Yeah.
Personally, I believe it's going to be Hillary Clinton from the Democrats. I think Bernie Sanders is doing very well, but he doesn't appeal to all the Democrats because of his socialist views. And for the Republican Party, I believe it's going to be Ben Carson. I don't believe Donald Trump. I think even the Republicans aren't that stupid to vote Donald Trump in. But then again, that is quite debatable. But personally, I think it's going to be Ben Carson that's going to get him. That's my views on it.
That's a fair point. Now, we're going to move on to our second topic of our new show. David's got something very interesting to talk about. So, money and happiness. David, let's have a chat.
Indeed, Fred. We've all heard the term money can't buy you happiness. Well, good news. It turns out that it actually can, albeit rather fleetingly. A study by the University of Southern California shows that there is a positive correlation between income growth and satisfaction, but does not necessarily make them healthier. However, the paper does not clarify whether money leads to happiness, or, here's the curveball, whether happiness leads to money.
Oh.
Now, you might think this is a peculiar statement to make. How can happiness lead to increased income? The answer is actually relatively simple. Depressed workers are significantly less productive than happy ones. This leads us to quite an interesting question. Why, generally speaking, do employers ignore staff happiness if it has the potential to increase productivity and therefore company profits? The most obvious answer would be that in the case of large transnational corporations, a slight loss in revenue from one store is insignificant by comparison to global profit. Another study, this time on life satisfaction in Germany, shows that people tend to look at those better off than themselves rather than less fortunate. This could be seen as either a constant strive to better ourselves, or as a result of natural Machiavellian human instincts, being jealous of your next door neighbour who's got a nicer car than you. Even just receiving a student loan puts you in the top 5% of wealthiest people worldwide. So why do we always still want more?
I've just got a quick thing to say. That's because Somalia, Guyana, all those poor African countries with African children running around in rags are going to be in the bottom percentages, aren't they?
Yes, exactly. You could be on £1 a day and still in the top 30%.
There we go, all the unemployed ones out there.
Yeah.
Listen to that.
How's that for the dole?
Raking your benefits. You could buy a mansion in Somalia. Be out there with the pirate drug lords.
Just for the quid.
How tempting, how tempting.
Anyway, money.
Forget buying a scratch card, that's all you need.
Everyone knows the term money talks. It's on some news sites as well as, well, pornographic sites these days. Money talks. In that case, happiness generated through hormone stimulation through the act of intercourse does lead to money.
So you're saying that paid porn leads to happiness?
Yeah, or prostitution.
I can see where you're going with that.
Is everyone happy that Talking Point is back? Have you missed this at all?
I think everyone.
I think everyone has missed
And your
this.
intellectual wealth has grown substantially.
Absolutely.
As did the people on the train
Let's put it
yesterday.
this way, boys. When obviously you've worked, Fred, in Jamie's Italian. Fred,
Yeah.
you've been all over the place.
I've worked in some really dodgy places.
Yeah. Chris, you and I, we both work at Tokyo. I think
Work at
we're
Tokyo.
treated quite well there, to be honest.
We like working there. We treat it
Yeah.
very well.
Would you say that the happier you are in a place, the more incentivized you are to work?
No, the tips or the incentive. The money is the incentive.
So the money is the happiness. So maybe for you it's more like a circle.
Yeah, I work harder to get more tips, basically.
Yeah. Which then makes you happier because you got more tips.
Yeah, because I can go out and drink more. None the shame. of
Well,
working
as
at
glass
Jamie's Italian.
collectors, David and I don't really get tips. It's more the money that we find afterwards.
Yeah, if someone
lying
leaves
on the floor.
if someone leaves like 20p on the floor, we're like, yes. All the bar staff are like, oh, I got £4.10 in tips. Oh, I got £7.20. Oh, someone gave me a tenner. We're like, I found 30p on the floor today.
And it was a happy evening. But yeah, no, I personally believe that I believe with what David was saying. That I think that the happier you are in the place, the more the incentive to work. I mean, obviously the tip is a big incentive, but I'm very happy in Tokyo working there, and happy with other places where I've worked, and I haven't really had a bad experience anywhere, and that kind of gives me incentives. I mean, I stand by the motto: if a job's worth doing, it's worth doing properly. So,
McDonald's treated you like crap, but the happiness from McDonald's.
Was the Happy Meal.
Well, if you're a child, it comes from the Happy Meal, but as a staff member, it comes from having a laugh with your other staff members.
It's like Kinder Egg, isn't it? Happy Meal.
What if they put Kinder Eggs inside Happy Meals?
That would
Just be an overload.
That would be ridiculously happy. It'd just be a happy occasion.
My childhood was ruined the other day. I saw a meme that said inside every Kinder Egg is a dead minion, and it really brought a downer on my day.
What are we supposed to do now?
No, that's it. Show's over. Thanks, Chris.
It's just the Chinese children that are going to be working for us.
Of course.
Of
Welcome
course,
back.
indeed. Welcome back to Talking Point, everyone.
So, just let me get this straight, David. You're saying that happiness can lead to more wealth.
Yes, because if you're happier, when you come into work and something's made you happy. You instantly just work better than when I'm working again. You're going slowly. You don't want to be there.
Okay, I get where you're coming from. But we've done this topic to death now.
Okay.
So we're going to move on.
Let's move on.
Let's move on.
You know what that means?
It's time for Fred
It's
Blagden.
time for my time to shine.
Oh Lord,
Here we go.
Sit back and strap in, everyone.
I do apologise if this offends anyone. I have been scrolling through the mail online, so let's kick this off. A couple have been banned from the extortionate centre of the universe, London, after getting down to business in Westfield Shopping Centre. A pregnant woman and her husband, on what can only be described as have been banned for what can only be described as hiding the Frankfurter on a sofa in the busy shopping centre. This happened as their young children were with them. I can only assume it was a fairly hands-on lesson on the birds and the bees for the young children, who apparently interrupted several times during the incident that lasted around 10 minutes. Akila Ali and Fahad Bilal have both received a ban from the capital that will last 8 weeks. Bilal's ban has been lifted for the 10th and 11th of November, when he must attend his immigration hearing and possibly get sent back to where you're allowed to do this sort of thing in public. It's not only acceptable, it's actually encouraged. They've said it just happened, so next time I'm in Westgate, maybe I'll get undressed and something will just happen, like a dirty protest. And it seems what can only be described as a pair showing off that they're sexually active, gone wrong, have engaged in a premeditated Rolf Harris-style attack on humanity. They have brought humanity in disrepute in a scandal that would make Jimmy Savile's little exploits acceptable. So, boys, what do we think?
David, please.
It's so good to be back. It's so good to be back. So this couple had intercourse.
No, I think it's a blowy.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes it
That
better.
makes it
a
okay.
whole lot better.
Possible. Why would you do it when your kids are there?
That's the thing, they were interrupted several times. They admitted that one of the kids was sat next to Fahad, who was the husband in the relationship, whilst it was going on.
That's just weird.
How disgusting is that?
Would you not at least send the kids off? Oh, go and get a milkshake.
Apparently they were playing. The kids were playing whilst this was going on.
Playing what?
No,
You don't want to
hopscotch.
know.
We don't know, do we?
God.
I mean, what happens in
What happens in
Saudi
Westfield
stays in
What
Saudi.
happens in Westfield stays in Westfield.
Yeah, I'm just
Rule 1 of Westfield's Mile High Club.
I've been to Westfield many times.
I've
And
been-
nothing like this has ever happened before.
I've been to Westfield a few times, and I'm just a bit horrified. I may have sat on that sofa.
You might have done. You might have gone, oh, that's a nice leather sofa. Have a look at that.
I wonder
Oh,
what's
it's
that.
very comfortable.
It's just.
It's making me go cold.
Oh God! Just
It is very. It's very. To say it's peculiar, it's just to put it mildly.
they're both unemployed as well. These
Are they?
Are they
these
really?
these immigrant workers, damn immigrants coming into our country stealing our jobs. They're not even
Alright,
stealing our
Nige.
jobs. They're unemployed.
All right, Nige, calm down.
I'm not being Nige. I'm just no. It was just a thing I read. This is the Daily Mail.
You were reading the comment
You were
section,
reading
weren't
the
you?
comment section of the Daily Mail, weren't you?
Yeah, sorry. It's happened again. But yeah, I mean, who should be? What? Just David, if you're in a shopping centre with Beth,
Yes.
is that the sort of thing that just happens?
Sorry, Beth
No.
being his girlfriend.
Beth being David's girlfriend.
No, because at that
God knows how he pulled. Yeah, that's what we're all thinking.
Yeah.
at that point, it's just a case of right. Let's go home then. You don't just go. Oh, I tell you, it's not a case of let's pop into DFS for a quickie.
Try out the new bed.
The fact is, it wasn't even late at night. It was 8 o'clock in the evening.
8 o'clock in the evening.
So there could have potentially been kids still around that were their own kids, but there could have been other kids still around. There could have been people walking around doing their last minute shopping.
Mummy, that woman's proposing to the other man.
I think we should go, honey.
No, let's go to the car now.
They
Home time for us.
were caught on CCTV. How is the security so bad they allowed him to finish off? Oh.
Maybe they were staying to enjoy the spectacle from behind the screens. They didn't have to pay for that one.
Well, the police just there like,
Perhaps, we never know.
That's not
Maybe that's
how
what
it
took them
works.
so long.
oh God, I'm just disgusted by the whole thing.
That is rather vile and disgusting, and I hope they have either thrown the sofa out or cleaned it up.
At the very least, you cleaned it.
At
Do
the
we-
very least.
Do we
You
think
changed the covers.
Do we think an 8-week ban is long enough?
No.
No, definitely not.
For
Live.
having
They're banned from coming within the M25.
Sorry, what's that?
Like they're banned from coming within the M25.
You are joking.
They're not allowed
sex,
to go.
sex in a
anywhere
public
near.
place is a criminal offence.
It is a criminal offence.
And
Yeah,
it's,
they got done
it's
for
a-
indecency.
Yeah. Indecency.
Public indecency. Not
She
just
gave him a
indecency.
blowy in a DFS store.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't a DFS store.
It was actually in the open supermarket.
Yeah, it was on one of the big corridors. They've got red sofas in
where they have
Westfield.
all the sofas, you know.
Oh
where you see the
no,
sofas.
that's even worse.
You've just
Everyone's
lost the
walking
point of
through
the story,
there.
haven't you? You've just really completely missed the point.
That's awful.
DFS. Do they have a DFS in Westfield?
No.
The sale never ends. It's incredible. Have you seen those adverts?
I'm waiting for this Christmas DFS sale to come up. See
It's
how many
already
percentage
happening,
they will
Chris.
It started in August.
It started in.
mate.
It started.
It started August 2005, Chris. You're 10 years late to the boat.
Swiftly moving on. Christopher,
Yeah, my
talk
friend.
to me. I mean, I know you're a big fan of The Daily Show,
Aye.
and I believe that new host Trevor Noah has been making a bit of a
Yeah.
splash.
Well, my satirical and comic hero Jon Stewart departed the Daily Show in the summer of 2015. A huge disappointment for the 2016 election, especially with Donald Trump running as one of the candidates. Many people asked who was to become the new host of the show. Was it going to be Amy Poehler, Tina Fey, or was John Oliver to make a surprise return to the show? Well, the answer was none of the above. Instead, they gave it to young South African Trevor Noah. Noah appeared on 3 different occasions on the Daily Show before being offered the top slot. His first show on 28th of September received mixed reviews from critics. The Hollywood Reporter wrote, "No memories of Stewart, and his storied reign have been usurped or replaced, nor, however, have they been sullied." Whatever that means. But during the first 4 weeks as a host, audience figures rose 20% among young adults aged between 18 and 24. Noah is starting to break barriers. He has tackled race relations in the US and has been one of the main focuses of the show. But most of all, he has carried on where Stewart left off, and that is clubbering the Republicans. Boys, can he be as influential as Stewart has been in his past reign?
If he sticks around for as long as Jon Stewart did, then absolutely.
I mean, I've been watching the show nearly every week. He's currently off at the moment because he had to go for emergency surgery. I think it was appendix he had. He had to get it removed, I believe. So he hasn't been doing it this week. But every show I've watched so far has been absolutely hilarious. I mean,
how long was Jon Stewart?
Stewart started in 99, I believe, 99. So
16 years.
16 years is a long time.
It is a long, long time. That's why he stopped, because he felt that he needed to hand it over to someone else.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's a long-term solution, isn't it? Bringing in Trevor Noah, he's then intended to be there for the next perhaps 19, 20 years.
Yeah,
I do like Trevor Noah a lot. I liked him doing stand-up before he was on the Daily Show, and I haven't seen much Daily Show, but I've seen absolutely rave reviews about his hosting on the show.
Oh, he's been brilliant, and also he's brought in 2 new correspondents. One of them, who I find absolutely funny, is a guy called, I believe his name's Roy Wood Jr., and he's an extremely funny comic, and he's done some really good kind of routines so far. So there's a lot more to come, and a lot more funny as well. It's been absolutely brilliant, and the way that he's also tackled race relations, being a half caste himself, it's been absolutely fantastic. The way he's kind of break down that barrier, especially with the whole hands up, don't shoot thing, which we covered in previous talking points before this.
Yeah.
So so far it's been brilliant. I'm expecting a lot more from him, though, and I'm sure he's going to grow in confidence as the show goes on.
I remember watching him do jokes. He doesn't like the term half caste. He prefers the term twice as nice.
His father is a black South African, and his mother is white of Swiss descent.
It's the other way around.
No, is it?
Sure. I thought it was the other way around.
It could be the other way around. I have to check that, but
yeah, I'll have a little look.
But one way is, I think it's because it said if either his mother or father is Swiss.
Swiss, yeah.
I think you might be right. I think it is his father.
Speaking of Jon Stewart. He's also been rumoured to be signing a new contract elsewhere soon.
Yeah, he has. He's currently the executive producer on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. Obviously teamed up with him because Stephen Colbert took over David Letterman, and I must say I watch that every night, and that is hilarious as well, as is Stephen Colbert. But that's the only thing he's really done. He's made a couple of slight appearances, especially on the opening show for him. But he's signed a contract with HBO to start doing short kind of educational clips, which will be interesting to see what his educational clips are going to be on. But I'm very much looking forward to that.
Like public service announcements.
Sort of like a public service announcement about who better to do it for the US than Jon Stewart. I mean, he was the most reliable news source, rather than Fox, NBC, CNN, you name it.
ABC.
Yeah, but
Bay News 9.
Well, mainly Bay News 9. Is that the news channel that you're watching out in Florida?
Yeah, when we went to Florida, that was the main news channel there, and it was so unprofessional.
Got Cohog Channel 5 with Ali Williams. Trisha Takanawa.
What's the guy's name again?
Tom Tucker.
With Tom Tucker. What's the weather looking like, Ali? It gonna rain. Absolutely love family.
Well, people are lands.
Slowly need a traffic opera, Voice of FM.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have a word with Kev about that, but I don't think that's going to happen. Anyway,
so there you go, yeah. Trevor Noah doing it extremely successful so far.
Let's whack one of these out.
Alright.
You're listening to the Talking Point podcast.
It's beautiful.
Oh, how I've missed our Arctic Monkeys jingle.
Yeah. Let's move on. Davide, what have you got for me?
Well,
What hasn't
we've had one story about happiness, and now we're going to go the complete opposite direction.
Sex?
Oh.
No, war.
Oh, fantastic.
Right, so here we go.
This is very interesting. I think you'll be highly entertained by this.
Brighten the mood, David.
Oh, God, lowering the tone.
With pleasure. Okay, so people tend to be very critical of Russian President Vladimir Putin, and quite rightly so. He runs one of the world's most corrupt governments, is uncooperative in steering global policy, and his aggressive foreign policy is frankly terrifying. However, more recently, President Putin has been taking a slightly different stance internationally, choosing to cooperate with the Syrian government in their ongoing battle against Islamic State. This had an immediate significant impact on the geomilitary landscape of the country. You won't believe this, boys. In the last 2 days, Russian fighter jets have taken out 263 terror targets. This is doing massive amounts of damage to IS forces. Many are worried about the long-term influence that Russia will have in Syria, perhaps fearing that another issue like the one in Ukraine will arise. However, it must be said that Vladimir Putin and Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, who, on a side note, does look like Captain Darling from Blackadder Goes 4, are actually very close friends, so a takeover is highly unlikely. That being said, at the moment, the Western world is more than happy to sit back and, with a laissez-faire attitude, just watch the action unfold in front of them, citing that the enemy of my enemy is my friend. At the moment, Russia is doing precisely what everybody in the world didn't want to do themselves: take on a powerful organised terrorist group that the world has very limited information on. So, gents, what are your thoughts on the current situation in Syria?
It's bad, isn't it?
It's bad. Why is it bad?
It's bad.
Because, well, first of all, you got the ragheads and their guns.
Okay.
And then you've got the corrupt president of Syria. And then you've got Putin coming in with his bombs and blowing things up.
The question is whether Vladimir Putin is backing the Assad regime or not.
They're close
Or
friends.
Mr. Taliban.
They're very close friends.
That's
I mean,
that's what's so scary.
There's a
about
reason that Vladimir Putin said to Assad a couple of years ago, those chemical weapons, if you've got them, we want to take them and we'll dispose of them. You could see that as either Vladimir Putin going, yeah, you can have them back in about, give it 2 weeks, you can have them back. Or it's a case of, we get along well, let me handle this situation for you.
I just find it so scary, really, to be honest. I mean, obviously the news did its fantastic job of scaring the nation by saying World War III is on the horizon. But
Thank you, the Daily Mail.
Thank you for Daily Mail, The Sun, and even BBC reported it, but someone was saying it. But I mean, that sort of thing. I mean, we've talked about when are we going to ever have World War III? When is it going to come upon us? And this probably could be the closest we get, really.
World War III will never happen.
No, I don't think it will either.
We have too many nuclear weapons across the world. One person pushes a button, everyone else pushes the button as well. Mutually assured destruction dictates that there will never be a World War III.
No.
There will just be the end of the world.
The end of the world, exactly.
Fantastic.
Oh, well, way to lighten the mood.
Cheers, David. Sticking with the tone of the show.
But going back, I completely lost you after you said Captain Darling.
He does look a lot like Captain Darling.
All I can imagine in my head was just Stephen Fry with his moustache going, brr. What's the matter, darling?
That's Boris Johnson.
Yeah, that's Boris Johnson as well.
Boris Johnson. It's like a dog, isn't he? It's like letting a dog loose on London with a bike.
Did we all see him tackle the Japanese kid?
Yeah, great little bump off. Showed Japan put them back in their place in the rugby world. Boris ran through. Blistering pace. Bumped off the tackler, and he was in for the try. It's a sensational finish by Johnson on the wings.
So speed of a gazelle.
So that adds to his fantastic list of rugby tackling a German in a friendly football match, which wasn't even an attempt to slide tackle.
Still better than Rob Shaw.
Getting stuck on a zip wire and falling in a river.
He's
not the most graceful of sportsmen, is he?
No, he's not.
He's just a liability. Even the Australians feel they can insult us because we have Boris Johnson. I mean, look who they've got, and they still feel that Boris Johnson is a joke.
Yeah.
Australian government's quite well run.
Yeah, but think about the people they've got outside the government. I'm talking TV presenters.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
What did you think I was going to say?
Exactly what you were thinking.
But yeah, it's quite difficult to take someone seriously when they look like a TV character from a comedy show.
Yeah, it is. But he has done some great things, like he basically told a mugger he scared off a mugger who was trying to rob a woman, and basically said, "Go away, you buffoon," or something like that. Yeah, Boris did. Yeah, he was riding on his bike and happened to pass at the same time and scared him off. I'd probably be scared off by Boris if he was cycling down a dark alley.
Having him running with his arms flailing, his hair's bobbing from side to side.
He really is a joke. I just hope he becomes Prime Minister while I'm still alive.
Boris and Donald, that'd be perfect.
Boris, Donald, and then Corbyn as leader of the opposition. It's just gone so wrong.
Don't worry, Putin will still be in charge of Russia.
Yeah, and Murdoch will still be in charge of the whole world.
The whole media organisations across the world, even though he has been.
Assad will be there doing his thing.
Are we able to confirm reports that Rupert Murdoch is considering taking over Radio Sonar?
Not yet.
Not yet.
No,
Well, but they are
Because they don't have a radio studio at the moment.
or any shows.
Or any shows, or any money, or a website, or any friends.
Hence the podcast.
I'd like to have a little word with Radio Sonar. I'd like to say thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to actually go solo and leave your station to better ourselves.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to go live to begin with. We've now moved to Voice FM for the breakfast show.
And it's going very well.
Yeah.
We've outgrown you,
Don't forget.
basically.
Yeah. The boys are bigger than the station.
And if you haven't listened to our breakfast show, we're on Tuesday through Thursday, 7 till 10.
voicefmradio.co.uk.
Shameless plug in there.
Has to be done.
Not even a waver in his voice as he did it.
No, I don't mean like Tuesday 7 till 10. We've got your sports reports. Once in the show, David every 20 minutes with travel updates. We're joined by Matt Clues from the mic, which by the way is also less than this show.
Mm-hmm.
Just like to confirm that now. So Matt, if you're listening,
What can we say? What can we say? Nothing competes with Talking Point.
No, we're too good.
We are indeed.
well, I'm moving on because you're boring me, boys.
All right.
We've only been going for half an hour,
That's incredible.
isn't it?
We've flown through the topics today. We've had a lot to talk about.
Had a lot to talk about, but we've done
plowed
very
through
well.
it, and we've done a great job.
Well, I'm going to chat to you about the Rugby World Cup.
Here we go.
Here we go. Yeah, this is what we need.
After a stunning World Cup, New Zealand retained the trophy by beating Australia at Twickenham last weekend. Dan Carter announced his international retirement along with Mar Nonu, Conrad Smith, Fernando Lowe, Gito, Matfield, Habana and a host of other global stars. But the biggest story was Japan beating South Africa in Brighton after a blistering performance from Queensland's new signing Ayuru Goromaru and Fumiaki Tanaka. England played in a way that reminded me of watching Jimmy Saville's home videos. Scotland have a right to feel slightly angry after losing to Australia due to what we can only describe as an almighty cock-up from Craig Hubert. So, a lot to talk about.
Mm-hmm,
I watched a lot of it. I think you boys watched a lot of it with me.
Watched a reasonable amount, yeah.
Yeah, watched quite a bit.
So, obviously, Japan. What a game. What a game.
Against South Africa.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
They're
Absolutely unbelievable.
Exceptional. And it's the classic fairy tale story of the underdog triumph in there.
Yeah,
South Africa put out the most experienced squad in World Cup history. And this team of
still got bent over the table though.
vastly unknown Japanese players, like you say, bent them over the kitchen table.
Yeah, it was just incredible to watch. I turned it on at half time because I saw that Japan were leading slightly at half time. Got to 5 minutes to go. Now 3 minutes to go. Japan are 5 metres out. They've got the ball, and they're 3 points down.
It's mad.
It's
It's
just-
just something you
And
don't
they still
expect.
come back to win.
And I watched it. I called my dad and go, "Are you watching this?" And he goes, "Yeah." I'm like, "Well, what do you think?" He went, "I can't believe it." And that's a very boring conversation. But at the same time,
It's just that you're so stunned by the fact of it. Really,
yeah,
to be honest.
it was a stunning performance.
We've got a talking point chat, and the part where you message saying, "Are you boys watching this?" We're not. We're watching what in Japan, and I wasn't watching it because I was expecting.
Watching the Japan game, we're like,
I was expecting
no.
it was South Africa to be bending.
Yeah,
Japan
why
over
South
kitchen
Africa? That but then South Africa went on to finish third.
Yeah.
So
They definitely recovered from it.
they played very well.
They did play very well, but that game is going to go down as one of the greatest games in World Cup history.
And the great injustice was Japan were the first team to win 3 games in the World Cup and still not get to the quarterfinals.
Not get to the quarterfinals, unbelievable. isn't
Scotland
it?
and South Africa got there instead. Obviously, Scotland then had a horrific injustice done by good old Craigie Bear.
Mm-hmm.
Me and you were in London.
We were in London at an event at the Alexandra Palace, and we were checking the scores. It was coming out on the bus, and then the part where he was like, "Oh my God, Scotland are leading, and it's coming through to the last minutes." I phoned my mum because I was gonna. It was Arsenal played Man United, so I was ringing her back because I wanted to ring my mum just to see where my dad was, and she was like, "I'm watching it, it's still winning," and then suddenly she went, "Oh, conversion, Australia got it."
Yeah, it went
by
down
1 point.
Went down quite badly in my house because my mum's like from Scotland. So clearly she wasn't very happy.
My dad went to that game with my brother, and I mean they weren't bothered either way who won, really, to be honest.
Yeah.
They just wanted a good game, and they got exactly that.
Definitely.
What a game to go
Great
to!
game.
35-34. That was probably the best game of the World Cup, I would say, personally. As good as Japan played against South Africa, got to give Scotland a lot of credit, but
Certainly wasn't one of the England games. I mean, we watched the Wales game at your house, David.
Yeah.
We did indeed.
And
we watched all the England games apart from Uruguay, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
I watched Uruguay at home.
I didn't really watch Uruguay. I had it on. I went out that night and I had it. It was on in the background in my house.
I think at that point we were past caring.
I couldn't really.
Yeah,
The Wales game,
care.
we were diabolical. Fiji, we were expected to win and we did, but it wasn't comfortable.
It was the last 10 minutes. They scored a couple of decent tries.
Yeah.
Mike Brown turned it on.
And then Australia, well, the less said about the game against Australia, the better, really.
We were in the pub and it was just...
There was meant to be a huge electric atmosphere against Australia, and after about 10 minutes, it's like the whole pub's silent.
The pub was quite a surreal atmosphere, though.
Really, to be honest, because we went down to the Royal Oak, and don't get me wrong, it's a lovely pub. We absolutely love it down there. It was our local last year because it was closest to our halls. Obviously, that has now changed because we're not in that area. But we went down there because it was the one that was the quietest for the World Cup because you couldn't get in anywhere else. We went down to the Royal Oak and got in there, and it turns out that they were having a disco for probably the most boring 60th birthday party I have ever seen in my life. It's not saying that the 60th birthday party is that exciting.
There were 4 people there.
There was 4 people there, and the music was, let's say, from the 80s, and we were listening to we were watching Australia batter us while listening to ABBA. So it was a very surreal moment.
It was a very strange experience, and
what was quite funny about that party is the fact there was the one old bloke in the wheelchair who at every opportunity he got would simply wheel one round, so he'd get one arm forward, one arm backwards, spin his wheelchair around and watch the rugby. And then as soon as his wife came back, he'd quickly swivel back round.
He did not want to be there. He wanted to be watching the rugby with us.
Yeah, exactly.
That was... I had a little bit of a sulk afterwards. I think you boys realised that I didn't really want to talk.
Well, yeah, you were like, you said if at the beginning, if we lose this, I'm not going to be in a good mood, and truth be told, you weren't.
No.
But then it's understandable. I mean, I wasn't in a fantastic mood. Well, after the Wales game, after we lost that, I left your David's place when we were drawing, and then I got home, and Kez and Annie, my housemates, were watching it. I was about to head off to work, and they were like, "Oh, Wales just scored a conversion." And I was like, oh, God. And I had to go to work knowing that we were going to lose, definitely, because there was only a couple minutes left in the game.
And me and Brad and David were all at the house. Oh, for God's sake.
Who was Wales's fly half again?
Dan Bigger.
And I have to give him a lot of credit. He played very well.
Both the fly halves just destroyed us in both games.
Yeah, exactly. Ridiculous. And then, what I was going to say was that, I mean, usually their kicker is obviously Halfpenny. But he was totally not needed for that.
They had so many injuries, they still beat us.
My question to you boys would be, excluding New Zealand, who was your team of the tournament?
Japan. Hands down.
Japan, hands down as well.
Fair enough.
Also, David.
I don't want to say Japan, because they didn't get as far in the tournament. They played amazingly. I'd have to say Scotland.
Interesting.
That was interesting.
They were solid, and they could have gotten a bit further. If they, like I say, they only lost by 1 point. I think we could have seen them get...
I think it's in the final because they would have played Argentina, and Scotland's record against Argentina is very, very good.
Yeah, we could have easily seen a Scotland-New Zealand final.
We could have done, but at the end of the day, it didn't happen.
One thing we should discuss just before we finish off this topic is Dan Carter.
Yes, we have to finish off Dan Carter.
Unbelievable.
Now, you two watched the final, didn't you?
Yeah.
I didn't. Myself and my Matt from On The Mic and also from the Voice of Men Breakfast Show went to go watch Eastleigh instead at the Silver Lake Stadium. We had a good time. They won 2-1 against Halifax. We went with our ex-housemate who came down for the weekend. So we had a wonderful time at that. But in truth be told, I was a little bit gutted that I did miss the New Zealand game after I heard about one of Carter's kicks, which I'm sure David's going to talk about now.
It was absolutely mesmerising. We're talking about a man who picks up the ball sort of halfway up the pitch. There's no options. You can either pass it to the man on your right, or you can hit the floor, basically. Out of nowhere, left-foot kick from the halfway point, just sails straight in between the posts, and
it was
the entire stadium just erupted. How on earth?
I mean, even
he manage that?
But even if you're that's one of those moments that it doesn't matter who you support, you have a lot of respect. So, I watched Bayern Munich thrash us on Wednesday night, being an Arsenal fan, and David Alaba scored a fantastic goal, which is pinpoint shot from outside the box to the top right corner, and nothing either Czech or nor goalkeeper would be able to do. And I just sat there and clapped, because you can't just say, you obviously you're gutted, but you have to respect what a goal that was. And I think even Australian fans had to credit Dan Carter for that, really, to be honest.
Yeah, it's just like, and now he's finished with the All Blacks and he's off to play in France. Who can blame him going raking the money, the big bucks in Paris? But just to finish on something like that, and the last kick he's ever done doing international rugby did with his weaker foot.
With his weaker foot.
Just to mug off the Australians.
Unbelievable.
Like, a little bit more. But fair credit to New Zealand there. Qantas.
Yeah.
Who all wore All Blacks jerseys the day after.
Qantas, yeah. Fair play to the airlines.
After the victory.
Because they had a bet on with New Zealand Airlines or whatever they're called.
Yeah, I think it's Air New Zealand.
Air New Zealand. Fantastic. I think it's great. It's good sportsmanship as well. And rugby, I stand by, it's probably sportsmanship-wise, is one of the best the best sport. A lot ahead of football, that's for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I think even though England's disappointment, it was an absolutely fantastic World Cup.
Yeah, let's hope for more.
Let's hope for more.
4 years' time.
When we'll never know what's going to happen with England. We'll see what happens. Certainly Sam Burgess isn't going to be part of that squad now, is he?
That's a shame.
Mm.
We don't need to talk about that though, because that made me upset. Well, moving on to our final feature for today, and it's a regular. It's a favourite. Chris, I believe you've got some strange news stories for me.
Oh, boys, it's been too long. Welcome back to the world of strange news, where we take the strangest and indeed the funniest stories and rank them into our top 4. So without any further ado, let's kick things off with number 3. So leading Republican presidential candidate Ben Carson has been defending his long-held belief that the Egyptian Great Pyramids were built by the biblical figure Joseph. The devout Christian who has leapfrogged Donald Trump in some opinion polls to head the race for November 2016 White House election says the monuments were erected to store grain, not as tomb for pharaohs. Mr. Carson was asked about his theory after BuzzFeed published a 1998 speech he gave at Michigan University, founded by Seventh-day Adventists, a church of which he is a member. What a muppet he is! And this is the runner for the Republican Party.
I don't really understand.
He believes that the pyramids were built by Joseph.
No, I don't understand that. Why? But why?
Why? Because he's an idiot.
Okay.
Simple reason being.
There are a lot of stories in the Bible that you can, like, some of them, there's evidence for. You can say, okay, this has happened. There are at least 3 sites where they said, okay, the area and shape of this land formation could be where Noah's Ark resting place is.
Mm.
Something like that. There was no mention in the Bible of Joseph building the pyramids in his Technicolor Dreamcoat with a hammer and a chisel. It's just ridiculous.
The Dreamcoat was made up by Andrew Lloyd Webber anyway.
There's no debate
The
over that.
Technicolor part, he did have a coat, but it wasn't Technicolor.
It would have been brilliant if it was.
Well done, Andrew.
Let's move on to number 2. Yeah, now, we were reading this one earlier, and it did make into a top 3, but it's made it a number 2. A highways inspector who threw his neighbour over a garden wall and headbutted his wife was back in court this week for subjecting the pensioner to vile verbal abuse in a 3-year row over parking. Yes, 18-stone Harry Ferris, 66, was convicted of 2 counts of assault last year after the attacks on 69-year-old Philip Hellawell and his wife Tilly, 65, who lived next door to him in Backup, Lancashire. Of course it was going to be Lancashire, wasn't it?
Where else would it be?
Now Ferris, 66, has been convicted of common assault after hurling foul-mouthed abuse at his neighbour after Mr. Hellawell left a note on Ferris's car urging him to park elsewhere. How lovely. So not only did he throw his neighbour over a garden wall, he headbutted his wife.
It's a good effort.
What a pleasant chap.
What a pleasant chap. And
sounds like my kind of friend.
And last but not least, let's go to number 1. And this is excellent. A British couple has been sentenced to prison after they were caught on surveillance video trying to smuggle a variety of items into a London area prison, including a McDonald's Egg McMuffin. Carl Jensen, 27, and his girlfriend Lisa Mary Hutchinson, 26, were sentenced Thursday for the October 2014 incident at Wormwood Scrubs Prison, for BBC reports. Video cameras captured Jensen tying a bag full of goodies to a fishing line that was pulled into a cell. In addition to the Egg McMuffin, the contraband included marijuana, cocaine, a 5-inch blade, a cell phone, a smartwatch, a plastic egg containing 5 SIM cards, a bottle of vodka, USB chargers, according to Fusion.net.
Ridiculous, isn't it? A lot of stuff.
That amount of stuff. and an Egg McMuffin.
I do love a good Egg McMuffin.
Maybe he just had a craving. You never know.
He had a craving. He needed.
Was it just an Egg McMuffin, or was it double sausage and Egg McMuffin?
I think it was just an Egg McMuffin, which
he's
is a
messed
disappointment. You need double sausage and Egg McMuffin. And have you heard the news as well? McDonald's is serving breakfast all day. So
This is a good day.
So
Really?
so you can buy a double sausage and Egg McMuffin anytime you want.
It's a good day for
It's a-
mankind.
It's a good day for mankind. Everything is looking up.
Thank you very much, Chris, for your strange news stories.
Sure,
Let's
mate.
do this one more time.
Shall we?
Fade up. You're listening to the Talking Point podcast.
Perfect. Seamless. No one's going to notice.
Yeah, we're talking about podcast arts, now known the Fred Bragdon Show.
You wish.
Thank you for joining us for the first new show. I promise you we're going to get better as we go on. I've got some awesome stories to talk about. So has Chris, so has David. We've loved having you with us.
Twitter.
Twitter.
Now
Twitter.
we've got a new Twitter account. I've got to get this right. It's at TP Podcast UK. At TP Podcast UK, because we keep on getting tweets from people that we don't care about. And I keep and
there's a fake talking point out there.
There's a fake talking
with the
point
same
out there,
username as us.
and they're mistaking us for them. And so please stop messaging us. We're at TP Podcast UK.
And then personal Twitters, David.
I am at DaveGeorge96, all one word.
I'm at MGN_Christopher.
At Fred Bragdon, all one word, all lowercase. Thank you very much. Well, we will see you very soon. Hope you enjoyed the show, and goodbye.
Bye bye. It's going to be.